thank you, members of the media, for joining us today as we continue to keep the nation informed and engaged. With us here today is Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations, Mr. Junior Benjamin, Assistant Commissioner of Police Specialized Support, Mr. Brian Sooden, and the Assistant Superintendent of Police Community-Oriented Policing Section, Mr. David Guelmo. Ladies and gentlemen, I now give way to our DCP Operations, Mr. Junior Benjamin.
Thank you, Inspector Kalinda. Thank you very much, Inspector Kalinda. A pleasant afternoon to each and every one, those in the media and even those online. It is my privilege at this time to give you an update as it relates to the school-oriented policing unit and the program in itself. I'm given the responsibility as a liaison officer by the Commissioner of Police to lead a team of officers, which include, on my right, ACP Sooden, who has executive oversight over the community-oriented policing section, and on my left, Superintendent Guelmo, who also has the oversight over the community policing unit, under which the school-oriented policing unit will fall. In our deliberation with the Ministry of Education, we came together and we sought to agree in terms of the policy that would govern the police officers in the school-oriented policing unit. Let me take this opportunity at this time to highlight the objective of the school-oriented policing unit. The objective of this program is to maintain a safe and secure school compound. It is a collaboration amongst the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Ministry of Education, MTS, the school health security officers, working in partnership with the principals and the deans and other supporting staff at the schools. This is with a purpose to protect our students, promote positive behavior, provide a supporting mechanism, giving lectures, building trust, and making referrals and enforcing the law. So the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has joined arms with the Ministry of Education to ensure a much safer and better learning environment for our children in the schools. Ladies and gentlemen, let me further explain the duties of the police officers while they're at school. One of the duties would be to maintain confidentiality and records, to respond to emergencies, to ensure that the school areas are well patrolled, and that they patrol the premises and also monitor the behavior of persons within the school compound. Also, in terms of to act as a mentor for students and also to promote positive conduct. As police officers, we will communicate with the principals at all times, and also to ensure, when necessary, to communicate with parents, duty council, and other related stakeholders. As police officers, we have some specific functions that we believe falls under the TTPS, as well as the Special Reserve Officers, and it is to perform our duties in accordance with the Police Service Act and also with the Special Reserve, in accordance with the Special Reserve Police Act and other relevant departmental orders. And also, officers would be required to transport persons who might be arrested or detained juveniles in connection or in accordance with the Children's Act, as well as to ensure their proper transportation to designated booking centers. These are some of the duties that the police officers will perform. I want to just bring to your attention some of the concerns that has come to my attention thus far. And let me also just put everything in perspective in terms of the number of schools, if I may, the number of schools that we have in all. Thus far, I can tell you from my record that we have at least 50 schools that would have police officers. A further 10 of the secondary schools would be schools where we have roving system where police officers will be going to those schools, and also in addition a further 10 schools would have from the primary schools that would have that roving system where police officers would be going and to these schools and speaking with the principal, speaking with students, and also going there at least twice a day to ensure that things are running in accordance with the systems that we have put in place. I want to just at this time highlight 2 incidents that came to my attention that I'm certain Trinidad and Tobago will be very much concerned about. And I think it is important that we take some time to talk about it. One has to do with the situation that took place in the Arima North Secondary School. And I would like to report at this time that the community policing section under the supervision of ACP Sooden and Superintendent Guelmo, as well as ACP Singh and Senior Superintendent Maynard Wilson, who is in charge of the Northern North, they, as well as other officers, Acting Sergeant Greenwich, Corporal Cromwell, and several other officers proceeded to the Arima North Secondary School today, and the said officers engaged the school assembly. They were able to speak to the students and to share with them that there is a zero tolerance that will be taken even as we go forward within the school year in terms of any breach of discipline and any situation where the police will be called in to deal with fights. And I can tell you from the reports thus far that it was well received by the principal as well as the vice principal and the entire school assembly. Let me just say that we should not seek to brand the school because of this one incident. I can tell you, when we look at the record of the school, we have been ably at least informed that in the past we had students, at least 6 students from the previous year that were able to start off having been involved in situations of this nature and still came out of that school with full passes. So it's not about how we start the race, but it's how we finish. And we will ensure that, by the grace of God, we ensure that our students in these schools at least end on a positive and a winning note. Even though that school is not on our list, I can assure you that it is one of the schools that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will be paying attention to. When we look at the list of the schools that we had, in order to come up with the list, both the Ministry of Education as well as the TTPS presented 2 lists. One had 80 schools, the other had 70 schools, and it came together and the Ministry of Education made the rankings in terms of the top 60 secondary schools. I want to say that Arima North Secondary was on our list, so it was one of the schools that even prior to this situation, we would be paying particular attention, or we had paid particular attention to, and will continue to pay particular attention to. So rest assured that they are on our list, and we will continue. The community policing, as well as the officers of the Northern North, will pay particular attention to that school. The next incident took place at the El Dorado East Secondary School. In that school, at around 3 p.m. on Tuesday, the 9th of September 2025, the victim, a 15-year-old student, as well as the father of that student, made a report to the Tunapuna police station, and immediately an investigation was launched. PC Hines was the one assigned to do the investigation. I can tell you the very facts is that the victim was outside of the school compound, and as he was awaiting transportation, it is alleged that the father of a student drove up, came out of his vehicle, and allegedly slapped the victim and went back into the vehicle with his son and drove off. Ladies and gentlemen, we are saying, based on the facts that is before us, this situation is unacceptable and will not be tolerated by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The investigation will continue, and I want to tell you that we will ensure that we leave absolutely no stone unturned as we seek to ensure a level of order, a level of safety and security in our school environment, both inside the school and outside the school, so that our children could feel safe when they come, at least to the school, for learning. With that, I just want to quickly, because I know that the SOE is also a part of which I had a very significant part to play as the DCP operations, and therefore let me just quickly just leave some stats with you in terms of where we are with the SOE. To this point today, we had at least 4,055 operations. In terms of priority offenders that we targeted thus far, we had 1,514 priority offenders targeted. We have done 25,656 searches. In terms of persons arrested, at least 1,775 persons were arrested. We had, to this point, at least 118 firearms recovered and 1,477 assorted ammunition. We had just under 227.7 kilograms of cannabis, and also we had 133 marijuana plants, 30 seedlings, and just about 7 kilograms of cocaine at this point in time we have seized. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an ongoing process, but when we look at our crime statistics, we are seeing that the hard work of the police is paying off. To this date, we had 260 homicides thus far, compared to last year around this time, we had well over 440 homicides, which is a decline of over 180 less homicides than we had previously. That is a minus 41%. And that is coming out of the hard work of our officers. It shows the strategic direction of our Commissioner of Police and the strategies that we are implementing, working for us as we continue to fight. We would like to encourage all members of the community to assist us as we continue to work together to ensure that we reduce crime and make Trinidad and Tobago safe once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Benjamin, for setting the tone and providing that overview. At this time, I now turn to Assistant Commissioner of Police Specialized Support, Mr. Brian Sooden.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon to the viewing and listening public. I just want to reiterate the objectives of the school-oriented program. But I just want to say this is an additional layer, because the community police and the police in Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has been making interventions in certain schools with programs ongoing, and these will be continuing together with this program. Some of the things at this basic level, we have the patrols, daily patrols at the schools, which is from even before school commences, 7 a.m. From 7 a.m. and when school also finishes. The patrols continue. This is a shared responsibility between the community policing and the various division station districts. The officers are tasked to minimize crowd gathering among children, ensuring that they are off the streets and into their homes. They patrol the malls, food courts, and other places where there exists the potential for gatherings. School visits will also continue. Lectures are done on a very regular basis at the schools. Lectures on topics such as bullying, the law on you, substance abuse, and other various topics. Larceny Act, the Sexual Offences Act, Dangerous Drugs Act, Firearms Act, the offences against the person, social media and its implications. We also conduct Cara Day exhibitions. Some of the programs that are ongoing: PARTS, Parents Acquiring Resources Through Support. This is an interactive session which involves parents of suspended students and also repeat offenders. We have programs such as for girls only program, targeting females between the ages of 13 and 18 years, and not to leave out the male counterparts, Blue, Boys Learning, Understanding, Elevating, that's between the same age group, 13 to 18 years. We also conduct the out-of-school suspension program. Children who are suspended are required to visit the community policing section in various divisions, where they are assisted with developing behaviors which convey respect, role play, and reflection on negative actions. The MORE project, this is a sporting discipline project, which is ongoing for a number of years. And finally, the conflict resolution caravan. This is an initiative where schools are visited on a needs basis, and lectures and programs are conducted on conflict resolutions. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Assistant Commissioner of Police, for those insights and updates. Next, we will hear from Superintendent of Police attached to the Community-Oriented Policing Section, Mr. David Guelmo.
Good afternoon, the Executive Deputy Commissioner of Police. It's on. Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Sooden, other colleagues, the viewing public and listening, members of the media. As previously relayed, I am the head of the Community-Oriented Police Section, and this is not anything new. The Community-Oriented Police Section they are at all divisions, and also intervention at schools. We have been embarked on several programs that are presently being undertaken at various schools in all policing divisions. I'm pleased to say the cooperation that we are getting amongst the school public, the school society, is something that needs to be applauded. At these schools, peer counseling, motivational speaking, guidance, conflict resolution are of the utmost importance. And I must pledge we continue to provide this support and any other support that is needed to make our schools a safe environment.
Thank you so very much, Superintendent Guelmo. We now move into the interactive segment of today's meeting. Members of the audience, this is your opportunity to seek clarification or further information. I want you to kindly identify yourself and your details before you. Please direct your questions to the appropriate officer. We ask that questions be kept concise so that as many questions as possible can be addressed. The floor is now open for questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Annalisa Paul, CNC3, Guardian Media. Commissioner, you've told us about two incidents at two specific schools. In the incident at El Dorado, you've not told us what has become of that parent. Was that parent detained, questioned? What exactly would have happened in that particular incident?
In terms of the yes, in terms of the situation in El Dorado, I would say that the investigation is continuing. So based on the investigation, at the end of the investigation, we would deal with that in accordance with the rule of law, so that if an offense is committed and we have the requisite information to charge, the charges will be laid at the end of it.
Because we're seeing that this is now a new dynamic and another layer being added here, where you have parents now waiting for children outside of schools. So while the police is playing a role inside of the school, can we see that now being extended to outside of the school?
Yeah, and we anticipate that, again, even from looking at past videos, that we've seen fights taking place outside the schools, and that is why the police is there. Our authority is not just within the four walls of the schools, but even outside, and our officers are aware of that, and therefore it's very important, even when we think about this, the time in which it took place. All right, that it would have been at a time when the officers would not have been there. But we are going to look at it again, and we are going to continue to ensure that we address the situation even as we continue to analyze and make our necessary assessment.
ACP Sooden, question is for you now, because you would have visited the Arima Secondary School today. In that incident, what would have happened with the student in particular, as well as the teacher? Has that teacher returned to school, and what became of the student at this time?
Just a correction, I did not visit that school this morning. Probably, but other senior officers visit the school, but
my apologies.
Yeah. So as I said, as Mr. Benjamin said, we are waiting the outcome of the investigation, but I can safely say the community police inspection, they visited the school and addressed the assembly this morning to save that whole confidence. I'm
now going to Mr. Guelmo. Would that fall in your garden now, sir?
Certainly, we had officers, senior officers from the Northern North Division, Senior Superintendent Maynard Wilson, with a team of officers from the Community-Oriented Police Section under the supervision of Sergeant Greenwich, and other officers there who would have went to the school, and General Assembly was done, and they would have spoken to all the students present. From the feedback they got, that it was well received by the principal and staff of the school, and that procedure will be ongoing, definitely.
And the student herself, has she been suspended? Has she been asked not to return to classes until this matter has been investigated? What exactly is going on?
I cannot say at this time, but we all have to remember the school has a matrix to follow in terms of discipline, and definitely that will be followed.
DCP Benjamin, coming back to you now. I know that on the first day of school, the list of 50 schools, officers were not able to be assigned to every school as the TTPS and the ministry would have liked. Has that been sorted out at this time?
Yeah, I think we are at the point where all the schools are being manned at this time, and we will be continuing to monitor the situation and ensuring that we liaise with the principal. I had the opportunity of at least going to 3 schools, speaking with the principals, and even sharing with them, hearing their concerns, as well as sharing with them all our expectations as well. And I must say that so far it has been a positive response thus far. So I hope it continues in that vein.
Now, you've indicated that there were 70 schools altogether, 60 secondary, 10 primary.
Yes, 50 by
50
10.
initial and then 10.
10 by 10,
and then 10.
so it's 70, yes.
Right, so those 10 primary schools, was the same matrix used to select those schools as was the secondary schools that had been selected?
Yeah, I think that from our standpoint, it was the same thing in that the Ministry of Education would be the one that ranked the schools. In fact, we had like about 20 schools in the primary school. Just the top 10 is the one that we are doing the roving. And again, we will pay attention to the others.
Good evening, Joey Bartlett with Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. What are some of the feedback you're getting from officers thus far?
Well, in speaking with the officers, and we recognize that, first of all, the officers, they themselves, they're excited about this new and type of policing outside there in the schools. So I'm thinking we're getting more positive than negative. Where we had challenges, we were able to at least immediately see how we can address those challenges. We would have had some challenges in terms of the distance and so on. Again, due to the great leadership by Superintendent Guelmo, we were able to address quite a number of those things so that persons are more comfortable now in terms of the distance and where they're going. And more, it seems to be a more positive outlook that we're getting. And we're hoping that will translate into the officers themselves being more motivated to continue the job.
You spoke about collaborations with stakeholders, Ministry of Education, etc. Is there any program where they are teaching teachers new tactics on de-escalation, stuff like that?
Well, I can't say the tactics that they are using. I can tell you that for us, as we continue to engage with all the different stakeholders, we are seeking to ensure that there is buy-in to the whole idea that the police would be there to give a supportive role. It is where we are moving from just seeing the police as doing law enforcement to ensure that we are there to ensure that it's about protection. It's about ensuring that there is that level of safety and security in the nation's schools, so that persons could just have a greater environment for learning.
Now, while we understand the focus is on the students and their behavior, we also have to keep in mind, assume the mental health of teachers and how they carry their own personal issues into the school system. So in order to deal with that in some way and not contribute to any issues with students and teachers, is there any proposal by the police to the Ministry of Education to have any specialized programs, which was my earlier question, in de-escalating situations? Because I know the focus is students, but holistically.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is that when we out there and as we seek to work with the Ministry of Education, any way that we can be of assistance, we will be working together. We are there as doing a supportive role, and therefore any way that they need our assistance, we will. If we have to suggest anything, I think that we have that open communication. Even as we speak right now, we have a sensitization that is going on. Today at 3:30, there's another sensitization where we're meeting with the stakeholders. We have met with the principals, we have met with the deans, and so forth. So it's a holistic approach that the Ministry of Education is using to ensure that there is buy-in to this whole process. And I'm certain even as we go along there and we continue to operate in that light, we are also building that cohesive relationship in terms of what is necessary to ensure that we at least all buy into this whole new idea of police officers in the schools.
At a recent SRP passing out ceremony, where you spoke, you cautioned officers about inappropriate behavior with students. What prompted that warning, and has there been incidents or issues of that has arisen in the past?
I think it's understanding that there's a level of professionalism that the police service must ensure you carry out. And we understand that, just knowing when you go out there what can happen. You don't wait until it happens. We always believe in having that proactive approach, and therefore you must speak to the officers, not just about the good things, but let them know that, when you breach the law, we are going to have a zero tolerance in dealing with those situations. So it was based on that. It was not on anything that I know, but it's because I understand what happens when we go out there. So we just ensure that we put the caveat out there that, it's a zero tolerance out there, and therefore you need to conduct yourself within a level of professionalism that is expected.
DCP, I know that there were concerns prior to the assignment of officers, sending officers into schools with firearms. There were several factions, several groups that voiced concerns. Are those some of the stakeholders that are meeting with you all today? Are we seeing that buy-in from them? Because I know that there were a lot of concerns ahead of schools opening with officers, how dangerous it could be, what it could lead to. Tell us, are they some of the stakeholders around the table today?
Well, I know that tutor should be in one of the stakeholders there. I'm not sure all the other stakeholders would be there, but certainly I'm expecting that that meeting would have quite a number of stakeholders. We met with the National Parent Teachers body as well prior, and this is the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and we had discussions before, so that it was all about us really ensuring that even before it happened, that we had that dialogue with persons, understanding, let them know why we're doing what we're doing, and the importance of knowing that our officers are going to be trained, and the aim here is to ensure a safer and more secure environment for our students, our teachers, and any visitors who seek to frequent the environment of the school.
I don't have time, but one question would be, why were these discussions held prior to?
Well, as you would agree with me that this is something, as it came up, all right, and it was something that we had to deal with very quickly, and therefore the time in which it came up, we had to, first of all, get the policy guidelines first, and as we get the policy guideline, then we had to ensure that we now meet with the stakeholders. So it was really a well thought out process, and again, those things take time, but we did ensure that we go through those processes to ensure that we know exactly what we were doing and ensure that it was sound.
Hi, DCP Benjamin, Alicia Boucher from TV6 News. Now, you just mentioned that you had to get the guidelines and so on. So can you give us some insight into that? Because I was wondering, in terms of stationing armed police officers into the schools, what would be the different protocols and how they operate within the school parameters and so on? And if you could give us an idea into the kind of training that has been done, given the concerns, some of the concerns that are in the public domain about having armed officers stationed in schools.
Okay, well, I will probably hand you over to Superintendent Guelmo to tell you some of the training that has been done. Let me just say, in terms of the officers, again, these officers are trained, and we understand. Again, I want us to appreciate the whole idea of the firearms in school. Again, we must appreciate it is there to ensure the safety and security of the students, the teachers, as well as visitors, and only it is one that is only going to be used when a person's life is in danger. And we want to ensure that our police officers at any time, if they are called upon, that they would have the necessary tools to defend themselves and the lives of others. I want that to be absolutely clear. Some of the subject areas that was taught, I will now hand you over to Superintendent Guelmo.
Hi, good afternoon. Apart from the general policing, like police duties, criminal law, evidence and procedures, and traffic laws, the officers of the school-oriented policing unit would have undergone specialized training in the children justice procedures, understanding child-adolescent development, understanding the role and function of school administration and management, use of force policies in school, conflict resolution, anger management, ethics and integrity, community policing, first aid, customer service, first aid and CPR, customer service, training in the use of non-lethal weapons, battle drills. That is just some of the training, specialized training that the officers would have undergone.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know who might want to take this question, but can you give us an idea of the complement of officers stationed at each school? Is it like 2 officers per school in terms of the 50 schools you would have outlined? Do some schools have 1? I just want to have an idea.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for that question. These officers that were selected, they were 95 officers out of a batch of 247. So as far as practical, there are 2 officers assigned to each school. One of the officers will be one that recently passed out, well, graduated last week Friday, together with a more experienced officer that was taken to basically guide that younger officer. As far as also possible, we have mixed gender in most of these schools.
And just for further clarity, you mentioned the 10 primary schools where there are roving officers. Is that together with officers stationed in the school and the roving, or those schools where there are the roving officers, they don't have any police officers stationed in the school itself?
Correct. Where there are roving patrols, there are no officers actually stationed at these schools. But also, even when there are officers stationed, there will be patrols to give support to those officers assigned there.
DCP, I just wanted to get some further insight. In terms of the SOE operations, you would have mentioned something like, and I don't want to, I think it was 1,775 people arrested, if I'm not mistaken, during the SOE operations. Would you be able to tell us how many of these people have been charged, how many have been released? Just give us a little more insight into that figure, if you don't mind.
Right. I don't have the numbers in terms of how much has been charged. I can tell you in terms of persons that were detained in relation to detention orders, we have at least 61 persons. From the 61 persons, we can tell you that at least 60 of them are in custody at the moment. One person, presently, we are pending the execution of the detention order. All right. I can say to this point that we have at least 45 persons remaining outstanding in terms of those that we have detention orders for. So that's where we are in terms of the detention orders. Most of the persons that has been arrested, my understanding, at least the majority were charged. I don't have the exact numbers at this time, but I can get a few.
DCP Benjamin, pivoting slightly, the two bodies that washed ashore, if they are not identified, what is the procedure following that?
Well, I can just say that there is a protocol that we would normally observe where if a body is not identified, it goes to the forensic. Again, when it goes to forensic, we have CSI that would normally go and probably get fingerprints where necessary just to see if we can identify the bodies, to see if we have any fingerprints here to match that body. And where we don't, we then it stays there until we can find some form of identification of those bodies.
How long does it stay there? Is it an indefinite stay?
I can't say. Again, from my experience is that it stays there until some level of recognition is done. I cannot say how long that could be.
And I get a final question from me, pivoting once again. Homeland Security Minister Roger Alexander, after the police passing out service, made comments directed to the executive team of the TTPS. The executive team about supporting the current commissioner of police and saying if you don't resign, essentially, as well as saying that the job has been filled. Is there disharmony in the executive team and how many members are there in the team?
I don't know if you see the love that is around here. But I tell you, there's an awesome love around, even today, executive meeting. I mean, it was amazing to see the togetherness that we share. And again, we take everything instructively. And I think that is about getting us focused. We will remain focused and we will continue to do our jobs without fear or favor, malice or ill will. And we will support our commissioner 150%, 250. Our commissioner is doing a tremendous job, and we're in there together.
Before you ask the question, unfortunately, your question would have to be the final question because we are running out of time.
I know someone across here was asking.
DCP, so regarding that same warning that was issued, the morale, because they've been in it went out in the public domain, and a lot of officers as well as members of the public would have voiced their own opinion in terms of dirty laundry being aired. Has that at all impacted, or do you think it would impact the morale of the officers?
I don't know if you see my spirit. We are upheld. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are professionals, and again, we appreciate, that there is constructive criticism. There are areas that we need to improve on. We are not perfect, and therefore we continue to take everything in stride. But the morale of the officers it is as high as it can be. When we look at our crime situation, there's so much things that are going right with us that, it is only because of great leadership, starting with our commissioner and all the executive members coming together and remaining focused. So the morale is very, very high within the police service.
Good afternoon, DCP. Just Alicia Shamley, AZP News. Very quick question, and going back to the incident in Arima. You had mentioned that when lists were being put together for schools that everybody thought needed to have these police officers in, the Arima school was one school. It did not end up being finalized to have officers in. Are you now thinking, is there going to be a reassessment then of schools? Will officers be put in that school? Or can we see maybe a month down the line, the TTPS has a reassessment and says, okay, well, if this is our pool of 100 officers, 50 schools, this school has done really well with us, this school is not doing well without us, and will there be movement? Will we see that?
Yeah. So again, I want to thank you for that question. I think that you have the mind of the Ministry of Education right there, where there will be constant assessment of the list. And again, it is the Ministry of Education that is taking lead on this. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are there as a support, and I want to be absolutely clear, so we do not make the decisions as to the schools. What we continue to do is that we have community-oriented police officers, and they work along with the divisional commanders, and they would look at even schools in their area, apart from what the ministry would have, and including what the ministry would have as well, to give that level of support. So I'm saying whether they are on the list or not, that support would be given because it was on the list of the divisional commander, and we will continue to give that support. The list will continue, I guess, to have life, and they will continue to monitor it. And as the Ministry of Education see necessary, once they make the necessary arrangement, we will work with them in having police officers once they fall within the 50, whether assessed now or later. Yes?
Just one quick question about the SOE. You discussed the drop in murders. Have you seen a drop in reports of what we would consider gang-related crime, extortions, threats on people's businesses, those sort of activities? Have you seen a drop in those?
Yes, ma'am, and I can tell you that we've seen a drop in nearly every single one of those areas that you have at least spoke about. I can just tell you off the bat that we have seen in terms of violent crimes. We have seen a reduction of 22% from at least last year. We had 3,201. This year we are 2,512. All right, we have seen a reduction in terms of serious reported crimes, where we have now seen a 15% reduction when we were aiming at a 10% reduction. In terms of larceny motor vehicle, we had a 20% in terms of our target. To this point, we have seen, in terms of larceny motor vehicles, we have seen a 34% decline. And I can go on and on, that we have been hitting some tremendous targets this year. That's why our morale of our officers are very high. We have bulletproof vests now and all the different things. I tell you, the commissioner is doing well, and we are going to continue to see that morale being pumped up as we continue to do our duties to the very best of our ability. We just want the community, we want Trinidad and Tobago just to continue to support us, and if you see something, say something, as we make Trinidad and Tobago safer.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the members of this esteemed head table, led by our Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Benjamin, followed by ACP Sooden, Superintendent Guelmo, and of course, let me take this opportunity to thank you, the media, for your active participation and questions. On behalf of our Commissioner of Police, I want to reaffirm our commitment to ensuring the safety, security, and well-being of all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, while maintaining openness and accountability. We encourage you to stay connected through our official TTPS communication channels for continued updates and not go by hearsay. This brings today's media briefing to a close. Thank you once again, and we wish you a safe and productive day.